Today on Capitol Hill, there is a hearing regarding sanctuary cities. Let's get caught up on what you need to know. Connolly highlights Adams' case in opening statement. Representative Jerry Connolly of Virginia, the top Democrat on the committee, used his opening statement to highlight the Justice Department's decision to drop the case against Adams. President Trump has tried to force the conditional dismissal of very serious charges against one of our witnesses here today in exchange for that witness's total and complete submission to the radical immigration agenda being propounded by the administration, Connolly said. And the DOJ has done so over the objections of a Republican acting U.S. attorney who President Trump appointed. Connolly called the arrangement a flagrant, corrupted quid pro quo. He's not wrong. The Virginia Democrats stressed that state and local sovereignty is essential, saying denying it is an assault on the independence of every American city across the country. Today, Republicans have hauled before us the mayors of 4 major American cities to frame them as lawless because those cities have some limits on how intrusively and aggressively their own officials can conduct federal immigration operations and responsibilities, he said. From there, Adams defends city's stance toward immigration in his opening statement. The embattled mayor of New York City defended the city's approach to immigration in his opening remarks, coupling the posture with his own commitment to public safety, saying, "As mayor of New York City and a former police officer for 22 years, keeping New Yorkers safe is my top priority." Is it? Is it though? Is it? Adams cited declining crime rates in New York City and said he was appearing on Wednesday to testify on how the city can continue to reduce crime even as a sanctuary city. So if crime rates were decreasing with immigrants there, why were you shipping them away and telling people it would? Let's continue. To be clear, the sanctuary city classification does not mean our city will ever be a safe haven for violent criminals, Adams said. It also does not give New York City the authority to violate federal immigration laws. To the contrary, New York City will always comply with city, state, and federal laws as it does now. My boy, you are not complying with all the laws. You know we can see you, right? I cannot have a city where parents are afraid to send their children to school or where children are sleeping on the streets, creating the potential for child exploitation and sex trafficking, Adams said. If an undocumented person refuses to seek medical care until they have a medical emergency, our city's healthcare system will be strained, and if an undocumented person witnesses a crime but is afraid to call 911 for fear of being turned over to federal authorities, criminals will roam free. No shit, Sherlock. So threatening to bust them or fly them away does what exactly? Appearing on national television with the self-proclaimed border czar threatening immigrants does what? Quickly, Linda, quickly. We'll continue with part 2. That'll be in the comments. Part 2. Denver Mayor recalls handling of migrant influx in 2023. Denver Mayor Mike Johnston began his testimony by recalling how, when he first entered office in July 2023, Denver was receiving buses of immigrants, totaling around 42,000 people over the course of 18 months, the largest per capita influx of any city in America. We are each entitled to our own opinion about what should happen at the border, but that was not the question facing Denver, Johnston said. The question Denver faced was, what will you do with a mom and 2 kids dropped on the streets of our city with no warm clothes, no food, and no place to stay? Johnston said, as mayor, he has an obligation to protect the health and safety of everyone in Denver. He outlined that what started as the largest encampment in Denver history, with more than 200 migrant families living in shelters, now stands at 0 migrant encampments in the city. In the midst of this, migrants did not bring a wave of crime to Denver. In fact, crime went down, Johnston said. Well, look at that. People who want to work and be safe don't commit crimes. The Denver mayor said America must acknowledge the full story of immigration in this country, recalling the personal stories of immigrants who came to the city, urging that Denver has come out stronger than what we were before. Because let us not forget those stories, those harrowing tales of immigration that you tell about your parents, your grandparents, and your great grandparents. Were they criminals? Were they addicts? Were they murderers? Chicago mayor highlights public safety aspect of immigration policy. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson also highlighted the public safety aspects of his city's immigration policy, saying immigrants would be reluctant to report crimes if they feared being turned over to federal agents. As mayor of Chicago, nothing is more important to me than the safety and well-being of all residents. Since I was elected, my administration has been laser focused on creating and implementing public safety initiatives to protect all Chicagoans, Johnson said, listing policies and programs he has spearheaded in the city. Violent crime is down in Chicago. The city ended 2024 with its lowest homicide rate in 5 years. The city is also safer because of our welcoming city ordinance. The law makes sure that the city's police resources are focused on our local priorities, he continued. In fact, 40 years of Chicago leaders have recognized that our policies towards civil immigration matters help to prevent and solve crimes. Put simply, any actions that amplify fears of deportation make Chicago more dangerous. Johnson said that any actions that amplify fears of deportations make Chicago more dangerous, saying that fears cause witnesses and victims to avoid cooperating with police. When there is trust between city's residents and the police, undocumented immigrants come forward to report crimes to local law enforcement and provide information that helps the police solve those crimes, Johnson said. It's almost as if people have the ability to come to this country with morality, with ethics, with a sense of social duty. Wish we could grow more of that here. Part 3 be in the comments. Part 3. Boston mayor touts city safety trust while criticizing Trump administration for undermining that trust. Absolutely. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu touted the city's status as the safest major city in the nation in her opening remarks, saying the laws on the books promote the kind of community trust that keeps us all safe. We are the safest major city in the country because our gun laws are the strongest in the nation, because our officers have built relationships over decades, and because all of our residents can trust that when they call 911 in the event of an emergency or report a crime, help will come, Wu said. Wu argued that the Trump administration's approach to immigration is undermining that trust. Celebrating Boston's achievements on education and innovation, among other things, Wu said, "We are all of these things not in spite of our immigrants, but because of them." To every one of my neighbors back in Boston, know this: you belong here. This is your home, Wu said. We are the safest major city in the nation because we are safe for everyone. Wu arrived at the hearing with her newborn daughter, who was born in January. It seems like maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't forget that you market yourself to the globe as the melting pot. Maybe you shouldn't forget what is inscribed upon the immigrant that is the Statue of Liberty. Maybe. Comer questions mayors on sanctuary city policies. The committee chairman began the questioning portion of the hearing by asking each mayor to acknowledge their sanctuary policies and status as a sanctuary city. The Kentucky Republican asked the mayors of Boston and Chicago about individual cases, asking whether they would turn immigrants facing charges over to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE often issues what are known as immigration detainers or requests for local law enforcement to hold a defendant with an immigration case or notify the agency if they plan to release them. Many sanctuary cities do not honor detainers. The mayor said that their cities follow the law outlining how their local law enforcement collaborates with federal agents, as the chairman repeatedly asked them, "Would you turn that criminal over to ICE?" None of them said they would proactively turn an immigrant over to ICE if they were detained on state charges, but said city police would work with federal agents if they had a criminal warrant. Immigration violations are typically civil offenses. The point that we've got to iron out today is that we have to have cooperation, Comer said. It is a federal law to turn over those illegal criminals to ICE, and we have heard reports, and many of you have said publicly, that you are going to obstruct that. That is not the case. That is not the case. And see, they use talking points and sound bites to sway and to sow additional hatred within this country. And if you haven't noticed, your hatred is what will dismantle you. The utopia that you want the United States to be, you are the roadblock for it due to your hatred. Connolly takes aim at Trump administration stance. Connolly, the ranking Democrat on the committee, took aim at the Trump administration stance on immigration, asking the mayors about border czar Tom Homan's approach to immigration enforcement. He asked Boston's mayor about Homan's comments, saying he wanted to bring hell to the city over its approach to immigration. "Shame on him for lying about my city," Wu replied, urging the committee to bring him here under oath and let's ask him some questions. Okay. Oh. Connolly questioned the premise of the hearing altogether, saying local law enforcement are cooperating with political leadership and it's working. It's bringing down crime rates. The proposition that immigrants cause crime is false, Connolly said, aiding that the idea that sanctuary cities need to be punished is simply a war on urban America. I'll be back with more updates as they come.